What's up guys, it's Rowan here from Smart TV. You know, one of the things I remember in the first week of school, when you start any school terms, it's usually pretty chilled. You know, everyone's just, warming up again, getting into the rhythm, not really doing anything. And while that might be your sort of temptation and your default, what I want to share in this video is really why that's the worst thing that you could be doing. And truth be told, what often happens is that you chill out and then you get into week 2, week 3, week 4, and stuff starts hitting really hard. And so what we need to think about is when you start a new school term, you start a new school year, how can you make the most of this first week of school? Because if you can be strategic, if you can think and use that first week in particular ways, it's going to set you up for success throughout that term and throughout that school year. So let's jump in and find out exactly what you can do to use that first week of school term in a powerful way to set yourself up for the rest of the term and the rest of the year. So the first thing you can do to really make the most of your first week back at school is to actually, in week 1, that's right, in week 1, start writing your study notes. Don't wait. Don't go, I haven't got my textbook, I don't know what I'm doing, teacher hasn't covered anything in class. All of that is excuses, right? What you need to do is in week 1, put out your syllabus and then start writing study notes. And this is really important because that way, if you start in week 1, and even more so than just start them, you want to go at least 1 to 2 weeks ahead. That's really important. Because what's then going to happen is if you get an assessment in week 6, you're not going to be writing your study notes right up till the week before the exam or the assessment because you're already a couple of weeks ahead. So by the time you get into week 4 and 5, you're already got your notes together and you can start studying and preparing for that assessment or exam. So really important. The first thing that you can do is get into that week and actually start writing your study notes. Don't wait, and get 1 to 2 weeks ahead. Really critical. So that's step number 1. So the second thing you can do to really take advantage of that first week of school is to find out when your assessments are going to be. It's so often that, you can have a passive, reactive approach to your assessments. And that's sitting back, just doing your stuff, waiting till your teacher gives it to you. But then often it's a surprise. It's like, oh crap, I've got 2 weeks to do this. And then you've got to go into that mad cycle of preparation. So what's so much more effective is to be proactive about things. And that means going and actually in your first week of school, having a conversation with your teacher and asking them, not of course what the assessment's going to be explicitly on because, they probably can't tell you that, but at least to know when the assessments are going to be in the term and maybe broadly what they're going to be focusing on. And now your school will know this because they have to coordinate from a planning point of view across faculties when assessments are going to be. So they'll know by the first week of the term when the assessment will be and, broadly, potentially, what are some of the topics that you could be likely to be assessed on. So really critically, in that first week, what you need to go and do is be proactive, have a proactive mindset, ask your teacher when those assessments are going to be, because then that way you can actually map out across the term, okay, here are when my assessments are going to be, what do I need to do in terms of my prep and my consistent work that'll ensure that I'm prepped and ready by the time they come so that it's not a surprise when you receive that assessment notification 2 weeks before the assessment. So the final thing that you can do to make the most of that first week of school is to actually start week 1 with your study routine. So often students get into week 1 and they're like, oh, it doesn't count, it doesn't matter, we're not doing anything. I'll start it next week. I'll start the routine next week. I'll start the plan next week. And the real challenge is that if you're saying that in week 1, you're going to say that in week 2. I'll start it next week. I'll start it next week. So what I want you to do, final thing is I want you to identify what your routine is going to be from week 1, right? When are you going to study? What days are you going to study? Right? Map that out, and then I want you to start it first week. Even if you don't have a whole lot of work to do, start it first week. Because remember, you can start getting your study notes and getting ahead. So start your routine first week, because how you start the term is how you're going to end the term. That's really important. How you start the year is how you're going to end the year. So you want to start with a positive habit, and that means don't wait until second week, jump straight in and get started with your study routine from week 1. So guys, that's it. That's 3 simple tips to really help you make the most of your entire school year and the entire term. right, in terms of how you can use that week 1 of school to really get things kicking for the year. If you've got any questions about starting the new school year or your new term and what you need to do, leave them in the comments below. Right? In fact, I'd love you to comment below like, yes, I'm gonna get this done, right? I'd love to see you commit to actually making the most of your first week. Now, of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We do videos every single week, and so I will see you next week.